So we had lost game 3, and then game 4, Schilling pitched again. And me and him were in the bullpen out in left center. And we walk out of the bullpen, and there I look. I'm this kid from West Salem, right? I used to play at the Village Park in West Salem. This is a small little town. And I look over, and there's all these plaques of Mickey Mantle, and Joe DiMaggio, and all these guys, Babe Ruth. And I'm like, what is going on here? And Schilling, we were starting to walk towards the dugout across the outfield, and Schilling stops me. He's like, take this in. And I'm glad he did that, because we both stopped there and we looked like, this is incredible. I'm a kid from a small town. I'm playing against the New York Yankees in Yankee Stadium in a World Series. You know, it was unbelievable.
Welcome back, everybody, to this episode of the Pay It Forward podcast. This has been one that I've been looking forward to for a while. As a kid, I remember going to opening day with my dad, cheering for this guy. I remember standing outside of the players' parking lot, asking for autographs, tailgating in the parking lot. It's nostalgic to have this person here with us today. This person is a former MLB catcher from 1997 to 2007, 2001 World Series champion with the Arizona Diamondbacks, played in the 2002 MLB All-Star game, played for the Brewers, 2005 to 2007, from West Salem, Wisconsin, Damian Miller.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
We're super excited to have you here today and just hear your story. Small town, West Salem kid, makes it to the big leagues. I think it's an inspiring story for many to hear, and hopefully our listeners gain some inspiration from it today.
Yeah, I hope so. Hope there's some young guys listening, and it's always, for an old guy, it's nice to be somewhat relevant yet.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of out of the limelight and stuff like that. But hopefully this can inspire some young kids around the area and wherever listening to the show.
Cool. Well, thank you. Let's get right into it. What initially drew you to baseball?
Well, I think it was more of a kind of a family deal. My dad was a baseball player. My grandpa, who I never knew, he had passed away young, but he played for the town team in West Salem. My dad played for the town team. They were both catchers. My dad ended up moving to third base, I think, playing for West Salem Town. Towns played each other back in the day because baseball was huge in those days. And I think it was just, whether it was in my blood or not, I don't know. I remember asking, I was 4 or 5 years old, and I got a baseball uniform for Christmas. I thought that was the greatest thing ever. And, I don't know. I just one of those deals where, I loved all sports. Like when in the 70s, when it was baseball season, I wanted to be Robin Yount.
Yeah.
When it was football season, I wanted to be the quarterback for the Colts. Back in the day, or Lynn Dickey or David Whitehurst for the Packers, and then it was basketball. I wanted to be Sidney Moncrief. So that was just kind of that time of year. I liked all sports, but baseball was just actually in high school. I actually liked basketball better. I don't know why, but baseball was always kind of a passion, kind of a secret passion, really. Yeah, I don't know. I just enjoyed playing catch with my dad when I was a kid, and now that after I became a dad, he's working all day, and then I come home and there's a kid, like a puppy waiting for waiting for him to play catch. He just just give me 5 minutes, But every day he would get his glove and off we'd go in the backyard and play some catch, and
that's awesome.
Just kind of stemmed from there, I think.
Were you more skilled at baseball or more skilled at basketball?
I don't know. I like to think I was probably skilled at basketball, but
really,
yeah, I don't know if I was or not. I probably wasn't.
Yeah,
but I was, as a kid, I started kindergarten when I was 4. And those days you can get to, I don't know if my mom wanted me out of the house or whatever, But so when I went to Viterbo, I was 17 years old.
Really?
Yeah. And I could have used another year of high school, really. I wasn't really ready for college, but another year of high school would have been fun to play.
Yeah.
As a turning 18 instead of, playing against everybody who's 2 years older than me.
Yeah.
That's just how it was. And But as a kid, I was one of those kids, and there's probably kids out there or parents out there that have kids like this so they had a game the next day, they'd sleep in their uniform. I was a kid who slept in my uniform.
Okay.
Yeah, I know a friend of mine, Josh Gates, he's from here. He's got 3 kids, and one of his kids is that way. Like, he just can't wait for Saturday for that tournament to roll around. He's fast asleep in his uniform. So, yeah, it's just I don't know if it was innate or my parents really never pushed anything on me. They just kind of let me figure it out, even as a little kid, But
did you dream of playing professionally? Like, is that as
I did.
You did.
I did. So every year, we never went anywhere on vacation. Our vacation was to Union Grove, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Every summer we'd go down there July 4th. We had relatives down there.
Yeah, I was just down there.
Yeah, and my dad would always get tickets for us for Saturday night's game. Go to the Brewer game at Old County Stadium. And he'd always get bleacher tickets because bleachers are cheaper, and then parents were doing parent stuff, and But I remember, like, my brother, we'd go in early for batting practice, and I would never ask for an autograph. I would just watch the players. It's like, and then they'd come in. We always get seats by the bullpen there, and County Stadium was in right field at the time, and I would just sit there and watch the catcher and watch the pitcher, watch them warm up, and just. I remember telling my grandpa one time. My grandpa was down there with us. I said, "I'm going to play here."
That is awesome.
I was maybe 10 or 12, whatever. I said, "I'm going to play here." He's probably thinking, "Go get him, kid. You're sure you will." But I still remember that. I had aspirations to play professional baseball, and even just as a little kid, I looked so forward to going down to those one game a year that we got to see the Brewers play. And I remember going one year. My uncle took my cousin and I. We were the same age, and we went to the old Met in Minnesota, and the Twins were playing the Royals, and this was 1980. Whenever George Brett was on the verge of hitting 400, whatever that year that was, I was 10. And, of course, it was a Sunday day game. When we get there, I was just like, I was a Brewers fan already. But, it's seeing professional baseball. Like, this is so cool. And I remember knowing who George Brett was. Of course, he didn't play.
Yeah.
He didn't play. It was a Sunday day game after night game. Who knows what he was doing Saturday night. But he ended up pinch hitting and hit a home run. I think he was over. That might have it was late in the year, like September or whatever it was, and that put him over 400. I think he ended up dropping off towards the end of the year. But one of those memories you have as a little kid, going to big league games, and what an impression it can make on you.
Yeah.
It's like even when you guys take your kids to games, I played with a guy named Lenny Harris. I just love that guy. But he would, players are really good about signing autographs for the most part. He'd always say, because kids were just howling and yelling, and he goes, hey, watch the players. Watch the players, what they do, how they do it. If you want to get better, this is how you're going to do it. I remember Lenny just always saying that to the kids almost every day. But so going to the games as a little kid made an impression on me, and but I didn't know if I knew, but
were your parents like? Because there's statistically, there's a lot of kids that dream of this, right? But statistically, it's tiny chance of being able to get there. Like, do your parents write it off of, oh, he's just dreaming of doing this? Like, or did they believe that this is something you can do?
That's a good question. I think they believed it. I think they believed it because I believed it. And they didn't want to shatter anything. I think they were really good about that. There is reality, but, as a little kid, you got to, there's aspirations that I can do whatever I want.
Yep.
And they never shattered that. They supported me in everything that I did, whatever sport it was. And my brothers, I have 2 younger brothers, and they were the same way for them. My dad always made sure he'd go up, throw BP or play catch, and my mom always made sure we had clean uniforms, and I don't know if they still have to do that, whether kids have to wash their own uniforms like we did, even in high school, but, they were very supportive the whole way, and, it's just funny how things fell into place, but, yeah, they were great.
Was there a year that kind of materialized, right? Kind of went from I dreamed of being Allen Iverson, but then I was unathletic and what you call not good at basketball.
Right, yeah.
So it was pretty early on when we said, you're not going to even make varsity, so you're probably not going pro. So was there like a year for you that it kind of materialized from yes, it's still a dream, but
Yeah.
there might be a little bit of steam behind this.
I think it was actually my freshman year or sophomore year in college when I went to Viterbo is where I really started to think that I could play. Of course, I'm at a small college. I have no idea what kind of talent is out there because there's a lot of talent. But I think then is when I really started to focus on me getting better as a player. And my freshman year, I had Ed Service there at Viterbo. He later went on to St. Mary's, and now he's the head coach at Creighton. He's from the area. I think it's Scott's uncle, Scott Service's uncle. And they're just a baseball family. But my freshman year, I didn't start right away, but I ended up playing maybe less than, 10 games in the year. I started playing more and more. I was playing okay. And like I said, I was only 18. I'm playing with some kids who were 22. But he must have seen something in me because he would take me aside and I didn't really know how to hit. I was just basically relying on athletic ability, how it got me. But he kind of took time this is how it's done. And, as far as hitting, that kind of set me over the edge. We're like, oh, and then the next year I had a good year. Then my junior year I had a really good year. And just had people in my corner. Pete Perenboom ended up being my coach at Viterbo my junior year. And he would just, in those days we didn't have all the social media stuff. So he had to send out for scouts to come watch me play. And, then there's always you're going to get drafted here, you're going to get drafted there. So then there's some false aspirations. And but at that point, I think my freshman year is when I really started to think that I could play at the next level, whether it be the big leagues, but I thought I could maybe play at minor league level. And I don't know, maybe that was it, So
that's awesome.
Yeah. It was so long ago I can hardly remember.
Did you have a plan B?
I did.
What
did.
was plan B?
Basketball.
No. Plan B was, get my degree. My father-in-law had his own business. He was a concrete pumper, and I thought, well, I'll get my business degree, learn how all this is done, and maybe take over the business at some time. And then I had aspirations of, I wouldn't mind being an electrician. And, going that route, get my business degree, then own my own electric, I don't know if it's the way they call it, electric company, but electricians company or whatever. But so I did have a plan B. I know I've heard some athletes talk about, you shouldn't have a plan B. Your main focus should be on this. And there's, there's something to be said about that. But reality still is reality. And you guys had talked before about the actual the stats of getting to the big leagues. The stats are so low playing college baseball, getting to play that level, and then much less getting drafted and playing in the next level like that. So,
who is the person that you said, so back then you had to send out letters, and who helped you get drafted essentially from Viterbo?
Yeah, that was probably Pete Perenboom. He was the coach. He got hired, I think it was my sophomore year, he got hired. Ed had left for St. Mary's, got a better deal or whatever, and Pete he sent out a lot of stuff to, I don't know what he saw in me, whether it was my talent or if I had a chance to play at the next level. He was older than me, and I was just kind of naive and clueless. And but that I would say Pete was probably the one guy who really made my game aware to, big league teams around. So. And
how did that materialize into actually getting drafted? What did that process look like?
So every game, because when you go to a four-year school, you can't get drafted to your junior year. My junior year, I had a great year. I was playing well. Still, you look back, it's like, wow, I really had a long way to go. But but every game, there would probably be 5 to 10 scouts a game watching me. And, and I've talked to people where that's happened, and they kind of, the pressure kind of gets to them, where I loved it. I'm going to show them, whether it was good or bad, on what kind of player I am. And, I thought I was going to get drafted a lot higher than I did because I had a great year, but I understand it came from a small university. And, but that, they were at every game. And, when draft day came, I didn't get any calls the first day. The second day I got a call, I don't know, mid-morning, something like that. It was the Minnesota Twins who had they had taken me in the 20th round. In those days, there was like 60 rounds or 70 rounds or something, and I was taking the 20th round. I got, I think I got a whole, I don't even remember now, $2,500 signing bonus.
Okay.
Yeah, but I had to pay for parking tickets when I was at Viterbo with my parents because they paid all my parking tickets that I got. Had to pay them back. I bought them a new washing machine, I think, and so I literally had about $1,000 to my name.
Oh my God!
Yeah. So
You made it.
and I made it. Yeah, exactly. It's it's funny how things work out though.
Describe that feeling about getting that call. What was that like?
Yeah, it was. It's a dream come true, really. But I knew it was the beginning of a dream. Like, I am so blessed and fortunate to be able to be in this position for this to happen. And people in my corner, people encouraging me. I was just so excited to, the scout who signed me has now passed away. His name was Cobby Satzer, and old time name in it, Cobby Satzer.
Sounds like a baseball scout.
It does, yeah. Yeah, he came to my house and he offered me this or that, and my mom and dad were there, and I was like, he could have given me $500. I'm like, let's get this on, I want to go there and get this, have this once in a lifetime opportunity, and so I signed it, and then about a week later, I was off. I went to, I think they sent me to Sarasota, Florida. They have like a pre-camp or mini camp, whatever they call it, and then they send guys to whether it be rookie, advanced rookie, or A-ball. A lot of times it's the older guys who will go to advanced A right away, and or guys who would play at bigger universities. And funny story, so this kid named, he's not a kid, he's my age now, but Brent Brady was his name. He was signed as an 18-year-old. He was like a fifth-round draft pick out of Illinois somewhere. And so we were all going to meet in the lobby our first day of the workouts. We're all going to go there, and he comes down in his high school baseball uniform. So he's from small town Illinois. This is the naivete of a young kid, and he's got his orange and black. Like, dude, you're going to get uniforms when you get there. You play for the Minnesota Twins now. You didn't think about it, but yeah, but when you go there, I'm a kid from small town Wisconsin. I go there, and there's people from all over the world, all kinds of different cultures that I had never experienced in my life. I mean, you got people yelling and screaming and eating like they've never eaten before, and running around and walking around naked, and what did I get myself into? It's like my dad says when he went to the military. He's like, what did I get myself into? But you look back and you can laugh at it now, but it was quite the deal. That was 1990, so that was June of 1990, so 34 years ago. I was 20 years old, and off I went. First time on an airplane when I signed. There's all kinds of firsts,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was sent to from there. I was sent to Elizabethton, Tennessee. It's a mountain town in Elizabethton, or in Tennessee, I mean. And we ended up winning it was the Appalachian League, and so you're some beautiful country, and it was us. It was myself and I think 5 or 6 other guys lived in this huge house. We bought a '76 Grand Le Mans Pontiac for $150. That basically made it from our house to the ball field, and that's about it. Well, and then I was my first game I got to play. It was like the second game of the year, and we were playing against Johnson City, Tennessee. It was the Cardinals at the time. My first at bat, I hit a 3-run homer. My first professional at bat.
Wow!
And so I was playing a little bit more because they're like, well, you can do. I don't know what they were thinking, but I don't know how many games later, not that many. I had a collision at home plate. We were playing, I think it was Burlington, Virginia, or somewhere, wherever the Indians were at the time. Play at the plate, barreled me over, and I tore the ligament in my thumb, my left thumb. I knew something bad had happened, so I went. It was like the third out. Went back in the dugout, came back out to play defense, and every time whoever was pitching would hit, my thumb would literally go back to my wrist.
Dang.
I'm like, this ain't good. And so I missed the rest of that season. And so then they sent me to instructional league, which is good. I mean, they must have seen something, because usually what they consider prospects, they send you to instructional league in the fall. And I remember having to put I I never had surgery on it. I came back here and I should have had surgery, but so I remember playing with a tongue depressor in my catching mitt like this and suffering through that.
Wow.
And it healed up, and I ended up going the next year and having a good spring training, got shipped to Kenosha, whatever. But yeah, so it was an interesting first year. But
so how long before? So, and I don't have a full understanding of all that happens before. So there's multiple different leagues underneath.
Yep.
The major leagues.
Yeah.
Was that Appalachian League similar to?
It was rookie ball.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's the bottom of the barrel is rookie, and then there's advanced rookie, and that's
Okay.
where I was. And then there's A ball, advanced A, and then they go double A, triple A, big leagues.
Okay.
So there's at the lower levels, there's usually a couple levels within those lower
But you're still
levels.
part of an organization.
Yep,
in those
still
lower
getting
leagues.
paid by the Minnesota Twins. I was
Okay.
making probably $600 a month,
Okay.
and I thought that was most money I've ever made in my life. You
Yeah.
know? But
yeah.
yeah.
And then when did you actually play your first major league game?
So I was, it was August something or other in 1997. I got called up with the Twins. In AAA, I was having a great year. I was hitting whatever it was, 340-ish or whatever, and driving in all kinds of runs. And I'd figured things out offensively. But defensively, I look back, I was like, man, I was a long ways away. Because there's so much responsibility for a catcher. But I got called up that year, and I did great with Minnesota. I got and Tom Kelly, who was the manager of the Twins at the time, he had managed the Twins when they won the World Series in '87 and '91, and then I got a chance to play for the guy, and I just loved him. But he had a thing, because I don't think he ever played in the big leagues, but he didn't like first-round draft picks because they got handed everything.
Mm.
He liked guys who toiled and had to work, and I was a toiler and I had to work. And I'm not saying I was better than the first-round draft picks. I'm just saying that was his perspective.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I got a chance to play. So that year, Paul Molitor was playing with Minnesota. So I got a picture of me hitting in my first big league at bat against Andy Pettit, and Molly is leading off first base.
That is really
So how cool is that? Because I grew up watching Molly as a kid.
Yeah.
Right? And he's an unbelievable guy. And so I got to experience all that. But my first day in the big leagues, so we're all sitting in the dugout right before the game, and TK kind of stands me up, kind of embarrasses me a little bit. Like, this guy has been down in the minor leagues for 6 years,
Yeah.
and he's getting an opportunity of a lifetime. And all the teammates are like, yeah, they love that stuff. And he would throw me in there. The Twins were kind of out of the race at the time, so he would throw me in there, and I did well, and I responded to it. I responded to the opportunity, because some guys get opportunity and they fold. I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's just the pressure sometimes where it comes back to the scouts watching me. I just kind of embraced it. I don't know if it was natural or whatever it was, but I was able to make most of the opportunity that I had there.
Talk about that pressure, though. So 6 years in your first big league game.
Yeah.
I mean, what did that feel like?
It's surreal. I remember, so we're in Salt Lake City and we're out stretching, and I'll get to that through this story. So we're sitting in center field stretching, and before batting practice and stuff like that. And I had known that Greg Myers was the backup catcher. Terry Steinbach was catching all the time, and Greg Myers was the backup, and he had gotten hurt. And I was playing very well. But this thing called the 40-man roster. So it's basically, so in the big leagues, they have 25 of those 40 on that team, and then there's 15 guys who are trying to protect that are probably in the minor leagues, and they don't want other teams to be able to get to them. Well, I wasn't on the 40-man roster yet. So it was kind of back and forth on whether to put me on the roster and take somebody off but that's what GMs have to deal with. So anyway, we're out there stretching, and Phil Roof was my manager at the time. He had played in the big leagues and as a backup catcher, but he was great for me. And we're all stretching there, and he puts his hand on me. He talks like this. He's like, "Hey, D," he called me D, "you're going to the big leagues." And it was like, the stuff you dream about since I was your kid's age, or just a tad older, like, unbelievable. I'm going to the big leagues, stuff I've just dreamt about. Like, how is this kid that played the West Salem Village Park. Now I'm going to go play in the big leagues, And I remember just like floating to the dugout, and then they got me on the airplane that night, and I was in Minnesota. And
wow, it happened.
I didn't play that night, but it happened that fast. So my wife and I were married at the time, so she had to figure out everything else back there. The apartment and the car and whatever we had. But I remember getting back to the dugout. When I floated back to the dugout, I called my dad, my mom and dad. My dad couldn't say a word. Yeah, because he's I don't know, because parents sometimes we live vicariously through our children, But he was so silent. I could just he talks about it now. We can laugh at it, but he was tears streaming down his face. Jeannie's parents, same thing. My father-in-law, her dad was verklempt, and he's an old mountain man. They don't get verklempt, but he did. So yeah. So it was just a cool moment, and so whenever I see somebody get called up to the big leagues, and like you're watching the Brewer game, and some kid just got called up.
Yeah.
They always put his parents on. Yep.
Yeah.
Then he gets a base hit or something. It's like there it is, right there.
Yeah.
You get to experience that with your child. They always put the camera on the parents. He gets his hit and roll, the mom's ball. And yeah. So it's a beautiful feeling so every time somebody gets called up, a young kid or something, I'm always pulling for him. So
that is so cool.
Yeah, that's why I text Taylor Colway last year when he got called. I was like, that is just, he's been toiling. He's been working his butt off and finally got the chance. And he ended up getting something nobody could take away from him,
That is so cool.
Yeah.
But then with that, so how did that work with the 40-man? Because then could they drop you back down to
nope. So
AAA, or were you were officially?
They put me on the 40-man, and then they had to take somebody off. I don't remember who it was, and I was never sent back down.
Wow.
So I stayed with Minnesota, but then I got taken in the expansion draft. They wanted to keep me, but because Steiny was getting at that age where he probably couldn't play every day again, but. So he wanted me to be there, but they had to protect other guys within the expansion draft, and my name stuck out, and the Diamondbacks took me. Ended up being a blessing. Not that I still pull for the Twins. I have a soft spot for the Twins, but personally, and for my career, it ended up being unbelievable. And so they didn't protect me, so I was in the shower that offseason. So I had played with them. I got called up. I spent the whole time with them. And then I was in the shower, and my wife said, you're on ESPN. They just took you in the expansion draft. I'm like, what?
You had no idea.
I had no idea. And I couldn't believe it. And then so I went to spring training, and I didn't make the team. So I got sent back down to AAA. And the Diamondbacks AAA team was in Tucson. And I was only down there 3 weeks. Again, the watch attitude came, and I went down and just raked. So I kind of forced their hand to call me back up again. And I was only down there 3 weeks and got called up and was never sent back down again. So, yeah.
And ended up winning a World Series with them.
Yep. Hey, they had some money there. And that 1 year the first year I was there, it was 98 or whatever it was, expansion team. So we lost a lot of games, because we didn't have
brand new team,
and that's pretty normal. But the next year that offseason, they had signed Randy Johnson.
Good signing,
pretty good signing, and the rest is history. In fact, 98 we lost close to 100 games, or right around there. 99 we went to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, you had Johnson and Schilling.
Schilling came in 2000.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, what a blessing as a catcher.
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate in my career to wherever I've played to have awesome pitching staffs. And I like to think it's me, but those guys were pretty good. They were pretty good. Yeah. So, I was able to do that and catch Randy and Curt for 5 years. And I think when I was there, Randy won 4 Cy Youngs. He was just, he was in his mid-30s at the time, but in my opinion, he's probably the greatest most dominating left-handed pitcher of all time. Maybe some people might think Steve Carlton, with the Phillies back in the day, but I might be a little biased in my opinion there, but it's hard to argue with that many strikeouts and that many Cy Youngs. And
so were you catching? So you were catching for him during those Cy Youngs?
Yep. Yeah.
What was it like catching Randy Johnson?
Yeah, it's when he first came in our first year together in spring training, I faced him when I think I faced him when I first got called up, or I think he probably dominated me.
I was going to ask how'd that go?
I'm sure it wasn't good for this guy, but but you catch him in spring training. You're doing all your bullpen sessions, you're getting ready, and like this dude, he's 6'10", and he's throwing 100. So it's a little bit of adjustment. I've never seen that before.
Yeah,
but it wasn't bad to catch at all. And to believe it or not, that guy, he was so sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes he would get insecure on the mound. Like, dude, you're the best left-handed pitcher of all time. I would say something like that to him, and he would just yell at me, "Get behind the dugout," or "Get behind home plate." He'd yell at me. But it was a great experience for me. I learned a lot.
Talk about the relationship between a pitcher and catcher. Like, what is that dynamic? What makes a great dynamic?
And that's something as a young catcher I didn't know, but I was fortunate. The guy that I just had talks like this, Phil Roof, he was a former catcher. So I had him through AA and AAA, 1 year in AA and 2.5 years in AAA. And he really taught me a lot. What it means to be a catcher. I had no clue. I just back there catching, throwing guys out, and then go hit. But it runs a lot deeper than that, because that pitcher-catcher relationship is so important. And if you don't have that, if the pitchers don't have your trust, they're not going to want to throw to you. So you have to be – so they pitch, especially the starters, every fifth day, and every fifth day the world stops. When we're out there every day. But as a catcher, you have to realize the world stops. When these guys are up, they need you to be totally in for them. And it took me a while to learn that. But especially when I caught Curt Schilling, he emphasized that to me all the time. Like, I need you to be totally in. When you were playing in Florida at the Marlins old stadium where the Dolphins used to play, and so there was an out. I don't remember what the out was. Well, I ran to the dugout. There was only 2 outs.
Mm-hmm.
Schilling's pitching. So I embarrassingly had to run back out. And when I went back in, he goes, "Come here." You don't do it in the dugout. You go down in the wherever, and then you have a talking to. And that hit me right square in the face. Like, okay. Because I probably took my at-bat, whatever happened, and I took it on the field with me. And that was something that at the major league level, you have to have a short memory. In fact, funny story was when I ended up being the old guy with Milwaukee, and Prince Fielder had just got called. He was a rookie. He was playing. And I am the biggest Prince Fielder fan in the world. I love that guy. We were playing in Pittsburgh, and he had struck out with the bases loaded or something. And sure enough, when stuff like this happens, the ball will find you. Well, he ended up making an error, cost a run, whatever. I don't remember the exact scenario of it. So he comes in off the field, and I should have taken him inside. I said, "Hey, he's 21 or 22 years old. I'm 35. I've been around a long time. We just cannot." But he just got in my face, and started cussing at me. That's fine. We're all get caught in them. He was upset that he made the error. So then after the game was over, I went over to his locker and I sat next to him. I was like, "Dude, this is your team. You're going to be the leader of this team for I don't know how long, because everybody's going to look to you because you are going to be the man." And he was, because he just has that. He has the presence and the personality. Like, dude, you're going to be the man. And so I had retired. And he was still in Milwaukee, I don't know, 6-7 years later. And he came up to me and goes, he thanked me for that moment. Wow. Because people had done it to me. So I was like, okay, and you see something, this is how we're big leaguers. This is how we're professional players. And he thanked me for that little squabble we had, but he learned his lesson, and so that part I think is good. Being a catcher is I kind of got off track there with that story, but the pitcher-catcher relationship runs deep, and if you watch a Brewer game and you're listening to Bill Schroeder, he's a former catcher, watch him stick up for the catchers. It's hard. It's hard because you have to go out there and deal with personalities that are, my wife had to deal with pitchers' personalities in the stands because, if somebody makes an error, like, what are they making? My husband's pitching. And like, well, errors happen. There's nothing personal, but it's the same kind of, I like to call them delicate creatures. They're delicate. I love them all, but they can be delicate. And, but catchers, you have to rise up. And that's why I told you before, like a lot of managers in the big leagues are catchers because they know how to deal with that dynamic of running a bullpen, the personalities, how to motivate. If one person needs yelling to or one person needs to be encouraged positively. So the catchers have to figure that stuff out.
That'd make sense, though, right? Catcher, you're kind of the on-field manager. You're controlling the game.
You're
all that. I think non-baseball fans, you just catch the pitch, you throw it back.
Right.
But
there's a lot that goes into it. Yeah, you're the field general.
Yep.
We're the unsung heroes. We're the left tackle.
Yep.
We're the unsung heroes.
So is the pitcher the wide receiver then? Kind of the...
Yeah, the shortstop. The shortstops are always the pretty boys. They get all the glory. Yeah, and the center fielders. But the pitcher is right there with them. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, because, I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but a lot of times they think that little round circle in the middle of the field is where the game is, where there's a lot going on. They kind of get, and I'm not saying every pitcher's that way, but some pitchers, they get a little focused on that little round bump in the middle of the field. So get them off that and get them thinking about other things. Yeah.
Do you have any special pitcher-catcher relationships that really stick out to you? Whether or not they're the best pitcher or not, probably was Randy Johnson anyways.
Yeah.
But one where it's like that was just your guy.
Randy was my guy, but I would say my relationship with Schilling was pretty tight.
Okay.
It was pretty tight. He really trusted me back there, and I trusted everything that he would do. It was on and off the field. We had T-shirts made up that for Schilling one year said, "If I wanted your opinion, I'd give it to you." He can be a little outspoken on things, and hey, most of the stuff I agree with him on. But he not only was he like me and him had a good relationship, but he had a good relationship with every catcher that he had. So when he first came up, well, not first came up, when he was dominant in Philadelphia, it was Darren Daulton. He loved Darren Daulton because he felt Darren Daulton was in on every single pitch. He is all for me that particular day. And then after us, he went to Boston and had Jason Varitek. And Jason Varitek he just loved him, and he is loyal, very loyal, and I really like that about him. But so Curt and I mean, every now and then we'll text back and forth. I know he had his own podcast I don't know if he's still doing it or not, but talking about baseball, stuff like that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You text him after the bloody sock game?
I probably did, saying you'd probably just put iodine on there to make it look like blood,
Yeah.
Big, tough guy.
Red food color.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, your stitches, bro.
Yeah. One of your stitches that he probably pulled out himself. No, but that dude was a gamer, especially big games. Oh, I don't know if I'd want anybody else on the mound besides him. He would be ready. He would be ready. He would be ready as far as game plan against the team. And the one thing I loved about him, he's really super smart, but like he could bunt. He said he had to really work on his bunting to get my slow behind from first to second. So they had to be perfect bunts. But he never walked anybody. If he gave up homer, it was a solo homer. And he held runners close. He gave me a chance to throw guys out. Guys were very seldom in scoring position with him. And he's just a smart baseball guy. And he was throwing 97, and he could dot it anywhere he wanted. And it was just great. Like Game 7 of the World Series, it was a 1-1 in the 8th inning, and Alfonso Soriano hit a ball that I went to go block. think it was a split. And I went down to block it. We just kind of golfed out of the park, so we're down 2-1. And we would go out to the mound, and Bob Renly was our manager, and he went out to the mound. He's got his glove over his face, and he looks at me. He's like, I just lost this World Series. Like, what do I say to that? I'm like, we'll get him back this next inning, even though we had Mariano Rivera coming at us the next inning. He actually was in the eighth inning, struck out the side. We got to go face Mariano again. And I was like, oh, we'll get Mariano this next time.
Let's move into that World Series, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a classic series.
It was.
I mean, still to this day, it's one that's going to be shown on TV. And
yeah.
I mean,
I think
because you were battling the Yankees at that time too.
Yep.
Fresh new Diamondbacks team.
Right.
And then 7-game.
It was incredible because that was 9/11 that year, and we had won the first 2 games. We had Curt pitched game 1 and Randy pitched game 2, I think.
Not a bad one, too.
Right. Well, that's why that year we never had losing streaks. Those guys were losing streak stoppers. That helps. I mean, you're going to have in periods of the season of baseball with that, but so then we won the first 2 games and went to New York, and we had a day off. So you usually have a workout and a day off. Just go to the Yankee Stadium, batting practice, whatnot. Guys got to throw. But earlier that day, we had gone at ground zero. And that was the most unbelievable thing I'd ever witnessed in my life. To you guys were probably pretty young at that time, but because it was all plastered all over TV, and I'm standing here, and it smelled like an electrical fire, and just this massive hole in the ground. Guys with dozers and pushing stuff out, and I just look up like I can't imagine, seeing a 737 come in, flying into these buildings, and people jumping and dying, and I was like, the game of baseball kind of got the back seat, really. So then we went into this building that was close to there, and there was a bunch of people in there, workers, firefighters, whoever was there, and Schilling talked for about 15 minutes. I wish I could remember what he said. It was spectacular. It was very moving. And so just to be a part of that whole deal with 9/11 and being in that incredible World Series, I remember, so it was we had lost game 3, and then game 4, Schilling pitched again. And me and him were in the bullpen out in left center. And we walk out of the bullpen, and there I look, I'm this kid from West Salem, right? I used to play at the Village Park in West Salem. This is a small little town. And I look over, and there's all these plaques of Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio, and all these guys, Babe Ruth. And I'm like, what is going on here? And Schilling, we were starting to walk towards the dugout across the outfield, and Schilling stops me. He's like, take this in. And I'm glad he did that, because we both stopped there and we looked like, this is incredible. I'm a kid from a small town. I'm playing against the New York Yankees in Yankee Stadium in a World Series. It was unbelievable. We ended up winning. I know we lost that game. I don't know if that was the night that Jeter hit the game-winning home run. I think it was at the stroke of midnight on Halloween. Yeah. And I still take blame for that. But yeah, we had a South Korean pitcher who was our closer, and he could be so nasty. And I let him shake me off to the pitch that I did not want to throw. It was to Tino Martinez to tie it up. So Paul O'Neill gets, this was 8th inning or 9th inning, whatever it was. Paul O'Neill gets a base hit to start off the inning, and Tino Martinez is coming up next. And I wanted to say, stay away from him. Don't give anything, because he was danger inside. And I caved. And to this day, I'm like, what are we doing, dude? It's okay because we ended up winning the World Series, but
in the 7th game, which makes it cool.
Yes, yeah. And so it was game, and Tino hits. We were up 3-1. Tino hits a home run, and Counsell testified it because Counsell was playing second base. So Tino hits a home run to tie it, 2-run home run to tie it, 3-3 in the 9th. And Jim Joyce is umping, and Jim Joyce is one of the best umpires in the league. And he's like, "Holy blankety! Look at home plate." Home plate was like this. It was an earthquake. It was so loud in Yankee Stadium.
Really?
I'll also say out in at second base, same thing. It was just like that.
Dang.
It was incredible. Yeah. And then a couple innings later, Jeter hit a home run to win the game. But yeah, it was absolutely amazing how loud it was. This was an old Yankee Stadium, the house that Ruth built. And here I am behind Hope. Babe Ruth stood right here. Mickey Mantle stood right here, and I'm catching. Wow. So that kind of stuff comes into you, all the nostalgia of baseball, because I was a baseball fan, and comes to hit you, all the history there, and just the significance of the game. Just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. So, yeah, then we ended up winning the World Series in Game 7. It was another surreal moment. Yeah, like when I said that, Schilling said, I just lost us the World Series. As a 31-year-old kid, I didn't – on that team, it was a kid. So, how do I respond to that? But we ended up getting Mariano in the ninth inning. Mark Grace led off with a single. I was second up. So I bunted. And David DeLucci pinch ran for Mark Grace. And DeLucci was going hard in second. Mariano fielded it, tried to be fast, threw it into center field. So we had guys on first and second. And so I went to first, but then they pinch ran for me. I don't know why they would pinch run for me.
You weren't a speed guy, huh?
Yeah, no. No, I had logged a lot of games. Then another bunt, Mariano made the play, and then Counts got hit by a pitch to load the bases. And then Gonzo you dream of that as a kid. A game-winning, if you're a baseball kid, a game-winning hit in the Game 7 of the World Series, and Gonzo did it. Just this little bloop, and we won the World Series. It was amazing.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was so. I can barely remember. I had to see video of what I did after we won. I had no idea. I just remember running, and so it's hilarious. I was like Herschel Walker. My knees are way up here, and I'm doing this. I don't even remember doing that, but yeah. But it was incredible, and we had that team was just filled with really, really super good guys that were selfless and pulled for each other, and the Yankees were really, really good. They were really good. So, and to be able to beat a team like that in that situation, what happened in New York, and to be able to be a part of that is, it's a story I can tell my grandkids, and hopefully they'll.
And what a story! I'm sure they'll be pumped about.
Yeah. My son, when he was little, he was on a baseball team, a bunch of kids from lacrosse, and they'd come up to the house and sleep overnight. And I had DVDs of all the games. So all these kids are down in our basement watching the DVDs of every single game of the World Series.
That is cool.
Because none of them knew, They were 1 year old or whatever when it happened. So
yeah.
So they I didn't give them to them. They figured it out, So it was pretty neat.
How cool to be in a classic like you were involved in.
Yeah.
That. Just because of how rare Game 7 is too.
Right.
And for Game 7 to
end up like
that way.
Yeah.
In your favor.
I know.
And involved in that ninth.
Yes. Yeah.
Crazy.
It's crazy. And one thing I do regret, so you always have parades, in the cities. Well, I didn't go to the parade because I had a whitetail hunt in Saskatchewan.
That's worthy of leaving.
No.
Yeah. Me and you were the only ones who think so.
Then that's going to take out all my questions about the victory parade. Were you the champagne shirt off?
I had to get home because I had a hunt booked in Saskatchewan.
Did you kill a giant?
It wasn't a giant. It was a good deer, 160-something, but
cool.
Yeah, cool deer. But
that's awesome.
I know. My wife just what are you doing?
I'm a little. To be fair, as the only non-hunter, I'm kind of like, you got to be.
Dude, you're an idiot. Yeah. I pretty much was.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's cool though. So then, how long were you in Arizona?
So I played there 2002, and I played in the All-Star game. Had a great time playing in the All-Star game. A couple doubles and a couple RBIs, whatever it was. Then I got hurt.
Talk about that honor.
Yeah, it was great.
Very nice of you. I was in the All-Star game, and
I know. I was
I mean, you're pro, but then All-Star game.
Yeah, I played in the All-Star game, beat it with a bunch of guys, all my peers that I competed against, guys that I looked forward to seeing them play. Playing against them all those years, and then being teammates for a night or two nights. Then Piazza started. I came in second, and I was fortunate enough to get 3 at bats, get a couple doubles. I remember before the game, All-Star game, you got to sign, like it's so much stuff you have to sign. So I go in there in the lunchroom in the clubhouse, and I'm going there, and then Barry Bonds sits right next to me. So me and him are having this conversation about how he dated a girl from Stevens Point.
No way.
When he was at Arizona State, there was some girl from Stevens Point, Wisconsin that he dated.
No way.
And her dad, didn't approve of it. I'm like, well, that guy's a moron.
That guy doesn't understand who Barry Bonds is.
Exactly. Yeah, so we were kind of goofing about that and other stuff like that. So, I get to rub elbows with, players of that level. Or because I played, my whole career was Barry Bonds. He was at his height, obviously, but I always said there was Barry Bonds up here and everybody else was there. He was just that dangerous. But then, you play against pitchers who you faced who are all-star pitchers, and then you get to go catch them, like John Smoltz or Trevor Hoffman or guys like that, and Tom Glavine. To be a part of that was so, so cool. And then to have some success during the game was a lot of fun. All-star game jersey signed by everybody, and that my kids and my grandkids will get. But then I got hurt after that. I hurt my back 2 weeks later, and I was just, I don't know what it was, but ended up getting traded that offseason to the Cubs, and which ended up being a great blessing as well, because I got to, our pitching staff was Kerry Wood, Mark Pryor, Carlos Zambrano, Sean Estes, and Matt Clement. And we were really good.
That would have been right where my love for baseball and my Cubbies would have started right then.
Yeah, it was, then we ended up winning the division, going to the playoffs, and that was the whole Steve Bartman deal.
Yep, I remember watching it on my mom's recliner.
Yeah, I was right there.
I think my mom was gone.
Oh, really?
I don't know, my little kid self just being like, oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, I know.
What, this guy? Goofy-looking guy.
Yeah.
Goff the Cubs.
This guy wanted nothing more than for us to win the game.
Yep.
He was in the wrong spot, and he did what 100% of the fans would have done.
Everybody would have
done it. It's not like he reached way over, and I don't think Moises Alou would have been able to catch it anyway.
He didn't help with the reaction.
Yeah, exactly. That didn't help, and I just felt terrible for that guy. But we had a really good team, great bunch of guys. Again, we ended up losing. We were 5 outs away from the World Series, and the Cubs hadn't been there since whatever year it was, 1920 or. So we would have been like the Bears. The 85 Bears are still gods there,
Yeah.
And then I would have been able to go back and play the Yankees because the Marlins, who beat us, ended up playing the Yankees again.
And they won.
And they beat the Yankees. Yeah.
Because they had Dontrell Willis and Lou Piniella would have been there.
No, it was Jack McKeon, I think. Yeah, older guy at the time, but that would have been a really cool World Series, Cubs versus Yankees. Yeah, the TV ratings might have been through the roof for that one.
Boy.
Yeah,
the TV personalities or companies are all saying Cubs better go.
Yes,
the two most marketable
100%.
They would have made bank.
And Marlins, who were getting 10,000 a night, during the season. But that would have been really fun. But what are you going to do? We ended up losing the game, and but that was Game 6. We came back Game 7, and Kerry Wood was pitching, so we always thought our chances were pretty good at winning, but didn't happen. So, yeah.
Well, Damian, what's your message to the younger generation that has dreams in their heart, whether it's professional sports or business or whatever? Obviously, your story is incredibly inspiring to them, but what's your message to that person?
Yeah, it's my dad always said, doesn't matter. You got to come from somewhere. You get all these big stars, and they came from somewhere. Whether it was, most of them came from small communities. Like Aaron Rodgers played at junior college. He's arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks ever.
As a Viking fan, I disagree, but
yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah, we'll say Brett Favre. But they found Carlton Fisk in the middle of Maine in the mid 1960s. They'll find you if you're good enough. They'll find you, especially today. But my message would just be, they always say, follow your passion, follow your dreams, and that's all good and stuff. But you have to put the work in. A lot of times I see parents, sometimes they get in the way, like they want their kids so bad to get a Division I scholarship. Well, they get to a certain age, 14, 15, it's not up to the parents anymore. That's up to that kid. You talk about Matt Thomas. He had a key to Onalaska High School. He'd be there at 5:30 in the morning shooting hoops. Either you have that or you don't have it. I wore up my old kitchen rug in my mom and dad's basement, hitting off a tee. I wore the rug out. And, you just got to put the time in. And when you get the opportunity, seize it. I always tell the young kids, there's three things this is what I tell the young kids, like three things. You show up on time, you do what you're told, and you do your job the best you can do it. You will have zero problems, whatever field you're going to go in. If you can just do those three things. But a lot of people can't. But, I always, and as I've gotten older, I look back and I think successful people, they're always positive. In baseball, you're surrounded by a lot of negativity. It's, you're failing. If you're a 300 hitter, you're failing 70% of the time. And I remember Matt Williams said when I was young, he said something to me when I first got called up. He said, try to do one positive thing a day because baseball is hard. Whether it's you're making a play that's going to save a run or you're going to advance a base, just one positive thing a game. And that kind of stuck with me. And I would tell the kids to surround yourself with other positive people. I was lucky. All the teams that I played on, I really didn't. I may have had one or two bad teammates in my whole career, and I played almost 20 years. A couple guys you're just like, I really don't want to spend time with that. I was blessed that way. And I think other successful people in whatever field, they surround themselves with other people who have the same motives and the same positivity. I think if you can do that and stay away from all the garbage that goes on in this world, I think you get a chance to do whatever you want. And one thing that would help me is that I never identified myself with what I did. I was raised with, and you guys have it too, obviously, just the Midwestern core values that we're good people and we work hard. And I think if you can do that, surround yourself with good people, I think you can be okay. And just don't identify yourself with what you do. Identify yourself with who you really are. And I think that can be infectious to other people. And people notice that. When people, like other positive people come in, you notice it, that are humble about it. Because there's some false positives, like this guy, how he carries himself. Is he carrying himself with this, or is he carrying himself humbly and with meekness? Because meekness is strength. So that's the advice that I would give. Other than that, it's just
what role has your faith played in your baseball journey?
Yeah, so when I was playing, I was born and raised in a certain faith that, and I remember as a player, there was so many people who were believers and who were trying to, well, we call it witnessing to me. And I was like, no, I got to figure it out. It wasn't until, like, I remember how much time we got. You're good. Okay. Yeah. But I was the check the boxes faith guy. Oh, so I went to chapel on Sunday. So check the box. Then you leave, then you're the same idiot, that I was before I went in there. You get the word, and then you leave the same idiot, and making the same dumb decisions. And so we go to chapel on Sundays, and one Sunday, and there was one guy who was a chaplain in Arizona. It was Brian Harper. He played for the Twins when they won the World Series. Just love that guy. Great guy. And all of a sudden, the door creaks open into the chapel room where we have this little office building. All of a sudden, like 5 bats come in. Clank, 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 and the door closes. And it was our left fielder, Luis Gonzalez. He's like, pray for my bats.
No way.
It was hilarious. Yes, it was hilarious. We still talk about it and laugh about it. But it wasn't until after I was done playing where I became a stronger believer. And my wife and I had been sending our kids to Cooley Christian in West Salem there. And at the time, she was a believer before I was. Not that we didn't believe in what Jesus did, but I was checking boxes, like I said. She wasn't. She had people witness her, like Andy Bennis, Jay Bell's wife, Andy Stankiewicz. There's people within my career that were just great influences on. In fact, I look back and I thank them now. And I apologize. But it's my faith has gotten stronger since I retired. And I've been able to influence a lot of kids because I ended up coaching at Cooley, coached baseball and basketball there, and influence a lot of kids that way with their, what it takes to be a man, what it takes to be a faithful man. So I'm not saying I got everything right, but I'm at least steering them in the right direction.
Yeah.
And then there's nothing better when kids graduate high school and then 10 years later they come back and say, hey, thanks a lot. Kind of like the Prince story. Thanks a lot. Because when you're young, you're just kind of caught up in the world. And then as you get older, you kind of just a little more conscious of things that would slip my mind when I was young.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, Damian, if there's one thing you want to leave our listeners with, there's so much, even just in the last couple of minutes, but if there's one thing you want our listeners to get from this episode, what would that be?
I think I've always pulled for the local players. It's a little biased, but whether they're playing at the college level or the next level like I was able to, and people here do. I would, we used to get stuff from the newspaper to see how kids are doing, but I would just try to be a positive influence on kids, root for all those kids, no matter if they're playing professional sports or they're going to the next level to be a lawyer or doc or whatever. I think just what I alluded to earlier is just being positive in young kids' lives. I think it's they will know a fruit by its tree. And I think that if we can just do that and be positive influence because there's just the craziness in the world, I think we can, we can turn this thing around. And it starts with the younger generation and getting kids to have different perspectives and positively, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go on and on, but
that'll be our part 2 when we have you back.
Yeah. We'll talk deer hunting.
Part 2 is going to be all bow hunting.
No, because I was.
You won't have any
I was so
questions.
down memory lane, and I was reminiscing. About, like sports. Yeah, I could. So we'll do the first half sports. Austin can tune out,
right?
And then deer hunting, I'll slide back.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Well, cool.
and I think there's certain players that like Giannis for the Bucks. I think he does a very good job of being a positive role model for kids because there's so much negative.
Yeah,
he's obviously he has a bigger face than I ever did. I can do mine locally, but he can do his.
Yeah,
countrywide or worldwide. So just that kind of example I think is really good. And the Bucks are lucky to have him. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you are definitely setting an example being here today and for our listeners. So
yeah, thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to be here.
Anytime.
Thank you everyone for watching this episode of the Pay It Forward podcast. If you want to find out more about the show or how you can sponsor the show to keep the conversations going, please visit our website, payitforwardpodcast.com. Again, thank you so much for your support, and we hope that you find a way this week to pay it forward.